My guest today has got so many different skill sets that the Holy Spirit has put together and just given her this incredible inner healing, coaching, empowering, wealth building, stewarding, resting, dynamic ministry. And I just can't wait for you to meet her and just hear how she has partnered with the Holy Spirit, who she says is the best business partner, and it has these techniques that are so kingdom. And so without further ado, Louise, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jen. I'm so blessed to be here.
It's so exciting, all the way from Australia.
I know.
I think you're my first Aussie.
Oh, wow. That's exciting. Oh, well, had to land here.
Yes.
Where the eagles are.
So from Sydney, correct?
Yes, that's right. I live in Sydney.
And have you been in Australia your whole life?
Yes, we've lived there my whole life, but I've been to the States many times. When I was 15, I just had this desire to come here, and now I look back and I know that God has called me here and to Australia for ministry.
Wow.
I love Americans.
Yay.
I love Americans.
Well, thank you for coming. We need what you have.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, one thing I found fascinating about your story, so many pieces, but one is that I think there's so many clues to our destiny hidden in our childhood. And it really touched my heart. You are definitely an anointed entrepreneur and such an inspiration and a coach and for women, a mentor. But you said in one of your podcasts that your grandmother was an Avon lady.
Yes.
And you started running around with her like at 3 years old.
That's right.
And then was your mother an Avon lady?
No,
just your grandmother.
Just my grandmother.
But then you became one.
Yes, yeah. It was.
It was in you. You know,
Yes.
like it was being modeled for you.
Yes. I only realised this a few years ago that all the way back then, he had actually put entrepreneurship inside of me and had my grandmother take me around to visit all the old ladies and eat the chocolate cake. And I'm like, he trained me in sales when I was 3. And you know, I was one of a big family, 7 kids. We didn't have a lot of money. My parents weren't entrepreneurs. And I look back now and, you know, they found out I was blind in one eye when I was 3. And I think I just had this desire to overcome.
Yeah.
From such a young age. And so that started the journey.
Yeah. And then in your journey, you went on to say that you worked in government and then you started doing sales, and the first time you had to do sales, you felt like you were going to vomit.
I did vomit. Sorry about that if you're eating at home.
Okay. Yeah. So all of these pieces, they culminate or converge.
Yes.
That's a word you use a lot.
Yes.
They come together and Holy Spirit starts showing you these different things.
That's right.
So what's a neuro-strategist? And tell us about how this company evolved.
Sure. Well, when I was 12, I started reading books about neuroscience. I think I just was so interested in personal development. I was listening to Zig Ziglar and people like that, and not knowing, you know, I grew up Catholic until I gave my life to the Lord when I was 35 and had a massive encounter with the Holy Spirit. But when I look back, even through my childhood, my teens, God was already orchestrating and refining me and getting me ready for this. And so I was fascinated with neuroscience, and I kept looking at personal development. And, you know, the rest of the kids, I've got 5 sisters, 1 brother, and they were watching the Brady Bunch, and I'm reading neuroscience books, and I'm like, I've never found out if Jan actually ever got a boyfriend. I'm still waiting to know.
I don't know that either. Know? Holy Spirit, show us, right?
I figure maybe one time, but married a nerd probably. Yeah. But and so I just was so interested in overcoming. I think I had this DNA in me for freedom and to overcome. And because we didn't have a lot of money and I was very emotionally intuitive, I just kept pursuing to learn. And my mother was very academic and a pioneer. And so I got this gift to love learning. And so that continued on. And fast forward, and I was pregnant with our first child. And my husband came home. We'd built our house. The builder had gone broke, so we had to finish the house, and we had 18.5% interest rates. Oof. And he came home the day before I was you know, out here 3 weeks overdue, about to be induced the next day. And I already had carried all this anxiety around money. And so he came home and the company had been taken over and they'd all lost their jobs. And so came home, lost his job. Here we are with the mortgage. I'm about to have our first baby. And so, of course, that was a shock and a trauma.
Yeah.
And what happened over a period of time was he kept working for companies that closed down. I worked for a company that closed down, and it was like over and over and over again. But I look back now and I started to study neuroscience strategies. I studied sales, business, you name it, mindset, everything.
Yeah.
And so a couple of years into having my kids, I saw a party plan company, and I just knew that I wanted to work for myself, but I didn't have any role models for it. And I think God had been sort of training me. And he said to me recently, I've trained you like a Navy SEAL, because we went through so many years of hardship. Yeah. Financially, where we were hanging on to our house by a thread. And in those valleys, he started to show me neuroscience and strategies to come out of postnatal depression, which I had at one point, and to, you know, he said you can either go into a downward spiral emotionally, which often starts with a little fox called disappointment, and then goes to discouragement, and then goes to depression. He said, or you can go in an upward spiral and go, you know, start with clarity and then creativity and then confidence. And so he showed me how to intersect those thoughts, which is what I love to teach, because, you know, we need to align our minds with what the word says, you know, that we have the power to get wealth, you know, that he did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound and well-balanced mind. Yes. So he taught me how to have a sound and well-balanced mind, even in the valley when we had no money. And so over the years I've developed, I'm trained in some neuroscience models, but he just has converged every situation, every mountain that we've overcome to help me to help. I love helping people in business, you know, leaders, you know, and he said to me, I want you to find the eagles, the influencers and the wealthy generals and take them to the top of their mountain. Ooh. And that was in a year where I just read the word in one of those very hard lean seasons that we had, where he just spoke deeply into my heart. So it's been a long 30 years and just growing and growing with him.